everyone, and welcome to the Scratticus Academy. We are back with some more Doors of Dunera today. Before I whiz round and say hi to everyone, just a few things. Please check out the chat for the links coming up now. That includes Discord. We have a channel purely for Doors of Dunera. I would love to hear what you think about it, your theories and whatnot. I know a lot of things about Airships has been shouting about on there lately. That's mainly by Jay than anyone else. Also, if you've missed anything, the playlist is on YouTube, all of the seasons, so you go check that out as well. Also, a huge thank you to our wonderful sponsors in the form of Magehand Press. You would have seen the pirate version of their game run earlier today, and also Dark Matter, which is, if you like D&D and you like space, you smush them together and that's what you get, and it's a wonderful thing. Also, Hero Forge, you would have seen them in the load-up screen. Their Kickstarter has been blown out the water for the colored minis. It looks amazing, and they're still adding more and more details to them. So please go check that out. Also, the wonderful Deck of Many, which I should have picked up from Scrat, which is definitely in Scrat's office, not here, which everyone knows about the hype train now. So that, and also they created Humblewood, which there's word on that maybe we're running a Humblewood campaign next season. There is tales of it. So otherwise, let's hop around and say hello to everyone. And we will start, as we always do, with the lovely Jagon's Gold. Oh, hi.
Oh, hi. I'm Jay, or Dagon's Gold. I hope everyone is thriving. I certainly am. I'm so excited to get on this airship. I've got like all my fluffy things because it's going to be cold up there. And yeah, and I'm super excited. I play Paula Packer, Dancer Librarian, and she is excited to go to Valadrian.
Awesome. Wonderful. Thank you. And then we're going to hop down to the lovely tour school. Oh, hi.
I am so excited to, finally get on an airship. Toland Folk, who I play, is going to be all about trying to take as much of it apart to see what it's all about without it falling out of the sky while they're going to Valadrian. That's sort of his mission on this one. But he's a curmudgeonly kind of old ex-explorer who's got a lot of history and a lot of baggage. It probably both figuratively and literally this time.
Oh my gosh, I need this image. Wonderful, thank you. Then we're going to hop over to the lovely Mal. Oh, hi.
Oh, hi, I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to get on the airship. I don't know that Reese is excited to get on the airship, but I play Reese Blackash. He's kind of a loner, and he doesn't do well with people, but he's somehow made friends with these three people, and it's going pretty well, I think, honestly, aside from the season tree blowing up and, stuff. But yeah, we'll see what happens today.
Awesome, wonderful. And last but not least, the lovely Sarah. Oh, hi.
What's up? I'm This on the internet, and in this game, I play Florence Spetlock. She is a postal service worker for the city of Karnan, as well as a courier for folks who have passed on into the next phase of existence, and she is also excited to get on the airship. Also, I just got these in the mail.
Oh my gosh.
Some of the Humblewood minis, can't recommend highly enough. They are beautiful.
They look really cute, actually. I haven't seen the Humblewood minis yet, so I need to have a look at those.
They're good.
Otherwise, it is early evening, and it's Paula. You're walking down the street from you've closed that door on that motel you're staying in, and what is Paula wearing? Like, is Paula like a heavy bag packer, or is it barely anything? What is it she's taking with her?
So, Paula, in terms of nice clothes, as nice as it, like her nicest clothes are probably the clothes she wears to work, which are like button up and a pencil skirt. And she's definitely wearing that because she wants to make an impression on these Valadrians, especially since her first impression was in sweatpants. So she is in fact wearing her nice pencil skirt and her button-up blouse and her kitten heels, and she has her hair up in a bun. She brushed it out. She looks much more polished than she looked earlier that day or the day before. But she's carrying many bags because Paula is in fact a bag lady. Although most of them are not filled with clothes. Paula doesn't have a ton of different outfit options at the moment, but she's bringing with her favorite books, of course, some of them being very sentimental, specifically her old book of anatomy that she takes with her everywhere she goes. And in fact, one of her bags it's like a soft bag, like a cloth bag, but you can see it's clearly taking on the shape of a rectangle because she has a box in there with all of the stuff that her mom had given her, the photographs and the compass and the textbook. So she has all of that in a lockbox in one of her many bags. And of course, her arms are straining, her circulation is getting cut off from her hands. They're probably a little blue, but she's doing everything she can. She doesn't have a proper suitcase because she's never traveled before. So she's never left the city. So she hasn't had a reason to have an actual luggage. So she just has a ton of bags. Yeah. And she looks kind of ridiculous, especially, and she's tripping over her, like, even though they're only like 1-inch heels, she's still tripping as she's walking down the stairs.
Well, it is a cobbled street, and you're very heavily laden with these bags. As you leave the motel, you walk down many of the streets you've walked past before. You can hear the waterways sort of lapping as they've calmed since last time you saw them. The lights sort of bobbing along. They're starting to turn on that soft glow. The berries on the walls are slowly starting to light up. Some of the flora starts to close. And normally it starts to get a little bit quieter this time of night, but you can hear a lot of people and people walking past you with bags themselves. Everyone seems to be fairly heavily weighed down, grabbing. Some people are traveling with barely anything at all, just wanting to get on the airship. You can see families where the kids have been passed bags, and they're sort of running behind their parents as they go. You see some of these Inarque have taken on a more solid form so that they're also carrying these bags, this luggage, as they follow their other halves onto these huge airships. And you walk past the dance studio, you see all the lights off, you can see a few blankets that are still left in there. You walk past broom bindings, closed, sign flipped over. The A sort of sign still outside, never taken off, but it looks to be maybe there was some rain at some point and the chalk on the sign itself has run. But you head down the street to this open courtyard and you walk past what was the season tree. This now sort of splintered stump, and you can tell people are trying not to look at it. They're just trying to walk past as quickly as possible. And as you sort of hurry past, there is a strange sense of almost like, even though you're not a magic user, you can feel that there's less here now. That the air doesn't feel quite right, as if it's not as sweet, if anything. And everything seems fairly still, and it is so much darker now that the season tree isn't there. People have started to set up lamps. And you make your way towards the airship. And you approach it. And it's this huge vessel which is effectively tied down to the ground. As you can see things being prepared, you see these huge balconies running around the outside of what looks almost like this honeycomb-like balloon. And people are running along the balconies around the outside, adjusting these flaps and moving things about and getting this ship ready for takeoff. And as Paula stands there, what is she feeling?
When she sees the airship and all the people running towards it and all the commotion, I'm sure Paula, she's nervous, she's really nervous. But she's also incredibly excited. I mean, she doesn't do exciting things, this is the most exciting it gets for her, is dancing down the streets at night, so going on an airship and leaving Karnan is just something she only imagined doing or thought about when she was reading books. And here she is boarding an airship, so she's definitely filled with those butterflies, but she's also there's a hint of some kind of either sadness or regret. She's trying not to dwell on it too much, but she's in the back of her mind, she thinks about her mom, and but then she remembers that Matthias was supposed to meet her here, and then she kind of like snaps herself out of this train of thought and tries to reorient herself on the task at hand, and sets her bags down to kind of look around for Matthias.
And you stand there probably for about 5 minutes or so until you hear footsteps running, and a very out of breath Matthias comes sort of running around the corner. You can see that his hair is bright blue again. He has got this ridiculous jumper on, which you're pretty sure his mother made. It looks very homemade, very garishly bright colors. He's in his what looks like his heavy boots, his normal trousers. You can see this. The only way I can describe it is like a Christmas jumper, but for all year round. Is all these big garish patterns and big colors, and you can see he's thrown it. He looks like he's half trying to hide it underneath this very heavy jacket that comes to his waist and a scarf around his neck. As he comes running towards you, and the only thing he has is a rucksack in hand. And you see that wisp of blue as Sophia, this Inarque ferret, sort of almost like tries to keep up with him, sort of trails behind, and she keeps looking back to where the season tree once was, sort of before he comes to a skidding halt, and he's like, I made it, here I am. And he sort of like smiles, and he's in so many layers. You can guess that his mother probably didn't let him leave the house without the layers. The rucksack itself is like this old canvas bag, which is bulging from the sides, like every pocket is full. He doesn't seem to have a lot, but whatever it is, it's in this bag. And he's like, okay, so I spoke to my mother, as you can probably see. You said you were bad at goodbyes, so I figured, hey, it's not a goodbye if I come with you.
Wait, you're actually gonna come?
Well, think of how many stories I can tell in Valadria, and new ones I can find.
Oh yes, the library. There's gonna be so many stories for you in the library, and
I'm gonna just go and talk to people as well. Like, Genova, I mean, I think they must be friendly. They're from Valadria. They got to be friendly, like.
I'm so glad that you're coming, Matthias. I was really getting nervous. I don't know.
He sort of smiles, holding his bag like in front of him, looking almost like when a small child is told they've done something good.
I guess, and Paula kind of peeks over Matthias' shoulder. So I guess the Archdeacon wasn't really feeling up for the trip.
It was more he didn't, I won't repeat what he said, but I don't think he likes Valadrians. And he didn't want to get on a ship with me or some of the other people getting on the ship. But he's fine. He's all good. My mother said something about visiting, but I don't know.
No, it's fine. I think we've roped in a number of witnesses, and
yes,
I hope that the Valadrians will have enough data to work with. But
I mean, I hope so.
Man, I'm glad you're coming, Matthias. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're coming.
I'm glad too. I haven't been out of the city in years, and let alone to Valadria. I've never been, and it's supposed to be an amazing city. And also, I want to go on an airship.
Right? I want to go on an airship too. These things are crazy. And she kind of marvels at the honeycombs.
Yeah, you see these people in these uniforms running past, sort of making sure all of these ropes and other things are secure. These big, what look like chunks of metal that seem to be feeding into the honeycomb, almost balloon shape of the airship, that are starting to glow these different colors. And you actually look down, and some of the people there with their anarchways are channeling this energy into these huge airships. And Matthias looks to you. I'm very excited, but I'm a little nervous, I won't lie.
I feel that too. I mean, feel my hand. I'm literally shaking. And Paula will kind of like show her, put out her hand, which is trembling.
And he very awkwardly places his hand on top of yours. He goes, "Yep, no, that's shaking," and sort of pulls his hand back quite quickly.
Also, like my hands are really cold. Like, feel how cold my hands are. And Paula,
and he looks at you and is like, and sort of puts both his hands round your hands. He's like, "Do you want a pair of gloves? My mom gave me like 5 pairs."
You know what? I think I really could. Fall is kind of coming on quick.
I've got some. And he sort of bends down to his bag, sort of starts digging through, and you just see all manner of like notebooks, papers, these different colored, almost like big chunky bits of chalk. You're not too sure what they're for, but there's some clothes in there, there's bits and bobs. You see a toothbrush almost fly across to the other side of the street before he catches it. And Sophia is slowly digging her way into this and pulls out this pair of gloves. And he goes, "Here you are." And he sort of looks at your outfit and is like, "They may not go too well." And you again see they look to be as knitted as this jumper that he's wearing. Again, that seem to have patterns, and this one you can see has a knitted smiley face on the thumb. I mean, there's these, it's not really an outfit match, but it'll keep your hands warm.
Yeah, I mean, I think right now, who cares whether or not it's matching? We haven't got landed in Valadris yet. Maybe once we're there, we want to make a good impression. Apparently, these Valadrians really, they're fashionistas.
Yeah, and I don't think my jumper's gonna like pass it, but it'll be fine. I'm sort of checking out his jumper.
Yeah, but I mean, like, who cares what anyone thinks anyway? I think that jumper looks really, really comfy, and it looks like it was made with love.
It was a lot of it, as you can see it, all the colors in it, as he sort of hands them over to you, and he sort of tucks his scarf into his jumper, trying to keep it warm, and he looks up at this airship, and that you could see his shoulders sort of drop, almost like in a sigh. And he smiles. Then shall we go on to an airship? And he offers his arm with like a bit of a smile and a bit of a sort of dramatic sense.
Paula kind of puts herself upright and her shoulders back and takes his arm and kind of like whispers to him, you know, I thought we were going to go to your place in the hills before we go to Valadrian together, but you know, I guess you never really
There's so
can prepare
many
for these
places
things.
we're going to see. And he starts scooping up some of your bags, like with one of his arms, because you're now holding an arm each. And he's like, shall we? As he sort of lifts up and suddenly realizes how much stuff you have. Like,
Oh yeah, you know, and Paula kind of takes her arm off of Matthias and is like, I'll just take those, and she starts loading up her arms.
okay. Fantastic. And it starts to almost still lets you go first to walk up the steps. And we're going to hop over to Florence. And Florence, you have been packing and you're finishing up. And every now and then you get a question from Rika, who is still perched at the edge of like one of your chairs. And she's holding this tiny little cup and saucer. She's made another tea for both of you. As she looks over, have you finished packing yet?
You know, I think I have. And Florence does a final sweep of her small studio apartment that's, like we learned last time, pretty Spartan, but has a pretty well-supplied kitchen. And she nods and looks back to Rika. Yeah, I think I'm ready to go. Oh, wait. And then she pulls out her phone and then texts her boss. I think I came down with something. I'm not feeling super good. I don't think I'll be in for the next couple days. And then she shoves it back in her pocket and then looks at Rika and says, yep, no, I'm good.
And Rika sort of looks at you, places the cup and saucer down, stands, and once again you realize how tall this woman is. As she looks and walks towards the door and opens it and steps through. Are you coming? I must head back to the airship now.
You know, that is, well, I'm heading to a different airship, not yours, but I am heading to an airship. Now's good.
I will escort you. And she sort of picks up one of your bags if there's more than one. Like, how many bags would Florence take?
Only one. So she has a, it looks like the kind of bag you would take out on like a through hike. So it's got lots of carabiners and clips on it, places where you could attach rope or a like bedroll. And it's stuffed with a week of clothes, a few knickknacks from her home, but that's it.
And she looks to you very, very briefly, almost in a little bit of confusion as you sort of happily kind of get everything on, and she looks at you, not in confusion, almost interested in your behavior, and holds the door open for you, and is like, please.
You know, I could have sworn I was the one who was going to be escorting you somewhere in town, but this works for me, and I
wanted to look around.
Yes. Was there, we could, maybe on the way back to your airship, we could swing by whatever you need to look at?
The sky.
Oh, well. Yeah, why don't we walk through the middle of town? There's something you might want to see. You can get a look at the sky there, and then we can head back to your airship.
And there's a slow nod. You're not sure if it's a bow or if it's a nod. But as you step over like the threshold, she closes the door.
Florence is debating whether or not she gives her the keys to her house to let her lock up.
She stands very awkwardly by the door until you have locked it, like she's not going anywhere.
And then Florence follows.
It is strange we do not lock our doors.
where I grew up, we don't really either. It's sort of a open houseboat policy, but here it seems to be the way of things, and the last week or so has been really strange.
I have never been on a houseboat.
Well,
Do you
if
live
you
on
ever get
these
the
things?
chance, yeah, sometimes they're up on stilts, sometimes they're on these kind of floating, flat barge type get-ups. I don't really know how they work, but I know that sometimes at night, as you're laying asleep in bed in one, you can feel the gentle waters rocking you to sleep.
I think that would make me sick. And she starts to walk down this cobbled street.
Well, if you ever get the chance, I am about to find out if an airship will make me sick, so we'll see what happens up in the skies.
And she looks at you again, nods. And you walk for a bit. You're not sure if she's leading or if you're leading. It seems to be sort of backwards and forward. And after a while, she looks at you and says, I would like to apologize. I can be very chatty, and I'm sorry if I am over-talkative.
You know what, Rika? I and Florence can't help but chat, and like we hear Biddy, who her little bat in an aqua is like clutched on to like the back of her shirt. We hear her like chirp, kind of almost like a laughter style sound. You know, I accept your apology, even though it's absolutely not necessary. I welcomed you into my home, and now I think we're just taking a walk at this point, which is a nice way to spend my last day in Karnan for probably a little bit.
She looks at you again. Okay. And continues to walk. And you can see a lot of the time she is looking around, but more up at the sky, and you can see she's looking up at like this big smear up in the sky, these different colours. And every now and again, you can see that crystal around her neck just give a soft glow. But she keeps walking. And she seems to take the lead at one point, almost heading back in the direction of her airship. And you round into this, not courtyard, it's just a larger space. You walk past the waterways. You can see some of the trams coming out of the water as this water runs off of them, with people on board coming up to the next level, stopping off, hopping out with all of their bags. And it is getting cooler in the evening now. It's nowhere near dark yet, but you can feel that it is coming into sort of mid-evening. And she stops almost at the entrance of this lane, effectively, where her airship is. You see people filing on. She looks. This is mine.
And I think that one's mine. It's the one closer to where the season tree once was. How long do you think you'll be here? Will I see you in Valadris?
Our airship leaves tomorrow morning. I will be in Valadrius in nearly 3 days.
Whenever you arrive, I'd love to learn what you learn here. I want to know what your eyes see. And then she looks at the stone as
She looks
that's been glowing
down at it, and she looks back at you. You are interested in what I see?
Yeah, quite a bit actually. There's maybe 20 questions I want to ask you about what you see and that stone and where you got it and what it does and how it works. But instead I'd just like to ask maybe, and I think I should go ahead and apologize for being too chatty, but I'd love to just go ahead and ask, is there anything I'd be allowed to know? Take it as like a personal curiosity in it.
She looks at you. You are chatty. I should say thank you too. And she looks confused for a moment and starts passing down. It seems to be these many, many pockets. You realize that this jacket she's got on and these trousers she has on are just full of pockets. This belt has lots of different pouches and leather sort of bags on the side. And she's like, I have another. And she reaches into this pocket and pulls out, thank you Sphinx for rolling a 23. This piece of like red cord. It's almost like a faded red with a much smaller jewel. Very similar to hers, but a lot smaller. And awkwardly holds it out to you.
Oh, I couldn't.
Why?
It looks too valuable to give someone you just met.
You're one of the only few who can use it.
Now that's interesting. How would I use it?
And she looks confused. You wear it.
I can do that.
Part of the glaciers. It has had something on it so that it doesn't... The cord wrapped around it makes sure that it doesn't melt. It is from the glaciers by the ice coast. They form crystals like ice, but with these enchanted cords around it, it doesn't melt. And I should say thank you. It is what manners are. You gave me tea and let me in your home. Please.
Well, Rika of the Ice Coast, thank you. And Florence will take it and very kind of delicately put it around her neck.
And she does that, closes her eyes briefly and bows. And you can hear her say a few words underneath her breath. They don't seem to be of the language you know. And this, thank you Sphinx for rolling, that you can now add 1 to your intelligence stat as well.
Ooh. Wow, thank you.
And Rika, without any other motion, just turns and walks away.
And I think as Rika walks away, Florence is just, she watches for a second, and when Rika's decided the interaction is over, she just
you
looks
see
down.
her, like, you see people moving out of her way. She's not like pushing people just seem to move as she walks.
And she looks down, and I think she holds on to this stone for a second before calling out, I'll see you in Valadrian in 3-ish days. And then
she looks back and just correct and turns and walks away again.
And Florence will head towards her ship because she's got to be there by sunset.
Okay. And we're going to hop over to Reese and Tolan. And would you still be at Aggie's, or would you have gone back to your place, Tolan?
Tolan, I think he threw his phone and went out and stormed out in frustration after being confronted with the fact that he had broken his phone again. He did take the pieces with him. I think Tolan, at first when he leaves, he's kind of amped up from some of the abuse that he was given about breaking another phone and not answering it and it not working, and that I threw it. But he's as he's on his way to his shop. Okay. And he starts just going through this list of things. And at first, he starts to think of his old expeditions that he would go on and sort of his old sort of rucksack, very much sort of army duffel bag, but that you wear on both shoulders type idea. And then that sort of shuts down as he knows that's not who he is anymore. And it throws him a little bit, but he sort of puts it out of his mind, certainly once he gets to the shop. So he gets in there, and after sort of looking at it and realizing that's not the right thing, that would never do. And he looks down, and like underneath of his work tables, there's these trunks filled with literally all these chunk inventions. And so he starts flipping them open and just emptying them out completely. But then he would get halfway through and, well, maybe I'll keep that one. Well, that could come in handy. And he starts pulling things off. And he's got these 3 trunks opened up, filling them up. And as he looks down at them, he thinks of something. He gets up and he hurriedly goes to the door, puts on his jacket, his hat, wallet, keys, sort of steals some stuff out the door, and starts heading into the Scar back to the old lab. And as he gets there, I assume the Scar is still transformed.
You walk through and it's almost like the ground is soft beneath your feet with how much this is replenished. It's not like grass, it's literally just flowers and moss and this rich flora that seems to sort of, as if it's seeping out of all the cracks in the cobblestones, like it's actually broken through some of them and worked its way up the side of the buildings with all these hanging plants over the sides of the roofs. It is how you saw it all the way through.
There is, I think that original wonder of it has sort of faded as he's very much on a mission at this point, and gets to the lab and goes over to where they had hidden, he and Averick had hidden the invention, the artifact that they had retrieved actually from the airship. And he sort of looks down at it, picks it up, his intent to take it back to his store, his shop, and pack it up with everything else. And I think as he does, he looks down at it and sees the lab around him and this restored Scar that he's walked through. This emptiness hits him because it's so much like it was before he lost Baron, before he lost his Inakwe. And that hole almost feels like it's ripped open fresh. The artifact that was responsible in his hands, with the Scar healed, that part of him is still missing. And he gets stuck. He wants to go outside. He wants to leave. He wants to now run away from this place that he was so excited about with Reese before. As he goes to the door, as he's done many times, he sits down in the chair that he always has kept there. And he just can't leave. He stares at the artifact in his hands. And as the sun's setting and he knows time is ticking by, there's only one fear that gets him moving again. And that's that Averick's going to get on that airship and leave Karnan and leave him here. and that gets him moving again. And now with almost no time, running back through the scar back to his shop, and he looks at all the packing that is left undone. And so he goes up into the little 3 stairs into that sort of raid set off to one side of his shop that he lives in. Desk, bed, the little stove that he's never quite cooked anything right in. And at the bottom of the closet, he pulls out sort of an old leather hard side suitcase. It's an old suitcase that his father once carried, that he always kind of made fun of, but somehow ended up inheriting. He stuffs in another pair of corduroy pants that look very much like the ones that he's wearing now. 1 or 2 more sort of off-white, unbleached, sort of natural fabric shirts. He goes over to the desk underneath that stack of books where he has his old drawings, his old little comics. He puts those in. To one side, he puts the artifact. I think he probably catches himself in this small sort of foggy mirror, like a 3/4 mirror. And he sees himself out of the corner of his eye, his sort of long traveling coat, carrying this old leather beat up hard side suitcase. And he sees the old man he's become again. There was that quick spark of excitement of being a seeker, of going off on adventures, being a tinkerer, bringing his lab or shop with him. But because of his own brokenness, didn't have the time. Puts on his hat, heads out the door, down the street, heading towards the airship.
And Reese, Tom left, ran out the door of Aggie's, and you were left there with Averick and Clyde, who looks very confused at what just happened. And Averick looks over to you and is very much, we're gonna have to follow him. And he's like, I need to stop by Broom Bindings and get some stuff, but can you at least try catch up?
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, I think it might be for the best. I need to just lock up more than anything. I know it sounds stupid, but I've heard about Valadrian and their teas, and I want my own. And he sort of looks very particular about it. You can see Clyde and Astrid sort of like going nose to nose, looking at each other curiously. Aggie is sort of smiling, and she seems to be dressing Averick as he's talking to you, and he's like, Aggie, hang on, like she's trying to put his coat on him, passing him like a bag and things like that. And Aggie looks to both of you and is like, you will, message me. Tolan will probably have to write because neither of us really like phones, but I'm sure someone will get hold of me.
I will make sure that Averick or Tolan message you.
Oh, thank you. Take these with you. And she reaches down into the cupboard and pulls out this very battered old tin and thrusts them. She thrusts one tin into your arms, Reese, and then starts, there's like this flask which she thrusts into like Avric's arm. He's like, yeah, okay. Thanks, Aggie. She looks around at both of you. So this is it?
I should go after. Yeah. And he turns.
You take the tin of biscuits and you run. And Avric goes, I'm going to hop by Burn Bindings. I'll see you there. And there's a moment that as you sort of open the door and leave, you see Avric sort of kiss the top of Aggie's head and give her a really tight hug. And you can hear some sort of murmurs of they're having a laugh and a conversation, and you see her slap him on the back and he almost fall over. And she smiles. And you see her starting to give him things as you close the door. And you head back down the way you came. Astrid sort of moving fairly slowly behind you, more because as you approach the Gardenia district, you see her nose twitching, sniffing all of these different flowers. You can see some sort of insects fly about, which she sort of snaps her teeth at every now and then as she pads through. And just up ahead, you can see Tolan, but he's like on a march. I'm assuming Tolan is marching rather than an actual casual walk. But you can see him. And Astrid sort of looks up to you lazily, snaps at a few more bugs, and keeps going.
I don't think Reese is a shouty person most of the time, so he just will speed up to try and catch up to Tolan.
Tolan, how in your head are you? Like, do you want to roll to see if you actually hear Reese coming? Like, is his head buzzing right now? Or...
He is very far away, very lost in his thoughts. And I think the impact of leaving Karnan is starting to get to him, and it's just he was such an adventurer before, and it was such a huge part of his life, and the excitement and the fun, and Avric and him then as his apprentice off and doing all of going to these places, finding the artifact that he now has with him, and then the whole incident happened when he lost Baron, and for 8 years he's been trying to rebuild himself after being so desperately shattered. And even though it's been painful, it's still the foundation he has. His routine, his shop, this sparse life that he has, even Aggie showing up once or twice a week with biscuits, daily, his every day going to Bruin Bindings as the sun would get low in the sky. All of those safety nets that he has put in place to just get through the days, it now hits him that they're not going to be there, and that even though this is an adventure, which part of him desperately wants, inside he's terrified because he's just not sure he's not sure if he's going to be equipped to deal with the bad times when they inevitably will hit him. So that's where his head's at.
And Reese, you can catch up to Tolan, and he just doesn't seem to notice you at all as you approach. It's like he can't hear your footsteps. He can't hear that that huffing and gruffing from Astrid as she sort of snaps at things as they sort of fly past her head. And you are literally stood right behind him, and he doesn't move.
Because we're both walking, I'm gathering, because he's on his way to. So if there's enough room, Reese will get next to him and take a second to like try and get a read on his facial expression, that kind of thing. I feel like what Tolan's feeling right now, Reese has gone through. So I think he really, he can pick it up pretty easily. And not harsh or uncaringly, but he almost trying to give him, almost like a joke, trying to push him out of his mind a little. He slaps the box of biscuits over and is like, "These are for you."
I think he grabs them and some things never change. He sort of looks almost lovingly down at this easily recognizable tin of biscuits. And as they walk, his feet have sort of taken him, probably not the most direct path, but he finds himself at Bruin Bindings outside. As you said, the sign flipped over. The A-frame's still out. And he finally stops. He looks at that A-frame. The chalk that usually is so neatly written out now, sort of running and sort of over his shoulder to where the season tree once stood. Even the sign weeps for the season tree. There's not a lot left here now, is there? Will just be ghosts left behind, still standing up somehow.
In my experience, there are ghosts everywhere. You carry them with you. Listen, Tolan, I can guess at what you're feeling. And the only thing I can really say is it's easier, it gets better if you run towards something than if you run away from something. I've been running a long time.
Dear friend, he looks down at the tin, told me something very important. The good days are worth it. He sort of pats Reese on the back. Remembering even before it was Bruin and Bindings, when it was Castachinos. I think he says his last goodbye to Carnan. there's a part of him that thinks he might not be back.
And you look through this broom bindings window, and it's almost as if it runs like a film in front of you. It's like you close your eyes for a moment and you see Averick behind the bar, restocking the teas, making the tea, rushing himself off his feet on a busy day, refusing any help from anyone. You see the laughing of people around you. You see the different centerpieces on the table that Averick would try maybe once a month, swearing it increased customers. Didn't. When it'd get later in the evening and he'd go round and light the candles. You see the memory of Paula sat in a comfy chair pulling a book off the shelf when you first met her. And then there's a moment where it's like you see yourself sat in that chair at the age you are now. But it shifts. And it shifts to a much younger you. And opposite you in the chair is Edric as he ruffles his hair to change its colour. Smiling. It's like you don't hear the words, but you can feel them. The panic that he has when he's checking his phone, realising he was supposed to buy milk. And the words he told you that he dropped out of school. The last time that moment where you saw him walk effectively out of the bookcases. You're not too sure how he did it. And you both snuck out of the academy and you headed straight to the Castaginos. You can even see the mug that he's holding in his hands with the blue writing around the side. And you see your younger self just smiling. Excited. Face to face with effectively your hero that is, of course you can do it. Of course you can go out and do whatever you want. You don't have to stay in school. I didn't. And that feeling in your stomach of the mixture of sadness, but also of, it's almost nostalgia of that feeling of something exciting is coming. But it does feel like nostalgia. And it's almost for a moment you move your head as you see in your mind Edric get up, shake your hand and run out the store and head down the street. And it's not too sure what the feeling is. It might be calm. It might be nervousness. It might be worry. But you can see it in your head.
I think it's anticipation. It's that fear but longing for the unknown and what tomorrow may bring. It's that magic moment when anything could be possible. I think it just sort of ignites in him. Not as a bonfire, but just a candle. But one that probably will never be blown out.
And Reese, you realize Tolan has probably been standing looking in this window for a while. It wasn't just a stop and look. This seems to be a linger. You're not too sure if it's a clinging on or a moment.
I'm really torn because Reese is like, we're just gonna leave him here. And I'm just like, I don't know. I think Reese recognizing that it's important to him, he's just kind of like, I have some things to do. Are you gonna be all right?
I'll be fine. I'll see you at the airship. If you have things to do. I just saying goodbye and also saying hello to an old friend.
And he just kind of claps him on the shoulder slightly.
I'll be there.
And then he leaves.
Okay. Reese, where do you go?
He's gonna go find his only other friends in town over on the beach.
You know the way now. You head there pretty quick. And you can smell something cooking. And before you know it, you find your feet in front of that door that looks pretty weathered by the sea. You can hear chatting inside.
He'll knock on the door and then let himself in if it's open.
Yeah, you can open it up. And
hello?
Inside, there is the smell of cooking. It's almost like the heat hits you almost immediately. And you see a head poke around the corner of Jonathan. He's like, oh, hello. Like, as he sort of like moves in, as he's got this apron around his waist, and you see his Anarquay sort of trudge through after him, this badger sort of move, and he smiles and walks over to you and gives you like an embrace that maybe you weren't expecting, like a pat on the shoulder, and he's like, you here for lunch?
He like looks at the sky. Lunch?
Yes, lunch.
If I out of character, do I have time for lunch? I don't know.
You might do, but you have a feeling even if you didn't, that he's probably going to pack you a lunch.
I don't think I have time to stay. It sounds like we're all gonna ride the airship to Valadris.
You're leaving?
They want all of us that were involved in, and someone needs to look after Tolan. And I guess that's me. So.
And he sort of half laughs. It was nice to meet you, Reese.
There's obviously something he wants to say, but he doesn't know how to say it. And he doesn't quite respond with "it was nice to meet you," but he's just like, can I write to you both?
And you can see his like face light up a little bit. He's like, I'll get you my address. Hang on. And he sort of moves over to the fridge where you can see there's loads and loads of post-it notes. And he starts writing on one of them before tearing it off. And he's like, this is this address. This is the home address. If you want to go for work, that's this address. And also This is my friend's address, just in case something happens, and you can send it there as well, and we always pick it up.
He at this point, he really doesn't know what to say, so he just stands there quietly.
And he kind of thrusts it into your hand. He's like, let me get you something for the road, because Valadrian food is weird. Okay, and he sort of like moves over to the kitchen. And very much like he did before, you see these things of Tupperware coming out. And you can see they seem to be cooking what looks to be like some meat, some pickles. You definitely recognize the jar of pickles. It looks like Aggie's handwriting on the side. And sort of opens up this Tupperware, starts putting in these different cooked meats, these vegetables, pickles, cheeses, like piling, and you can tell he's piling it in as he stacks it up. And he walks over and hands out this like tower of Tupperware, is the only way I can describe it to you. As he sort of, as he hands it over, he bends down to Astrid and holds out this piece of meat and gives her a scritch as she very happily gulps this down.
He stands there with the Tupperware, and I think again there's a lot of things he wants to say, but he doesn't know what to say. Can I, if I come back, can I stop by?
Well, of course. As I said, we have a room set up. And just, I mean, we're always cooking. There's always enough food. If not, I'll just put a ham in.
Oh, she'd love that.
And he smiles, and you can see a little hint of sadness, but he definitely smiles.
Avric's coming with us. I think they ran Broom Bindings, right?
Oh yes, that's where Ricard likes to go during his breaks. Yes.
Maybe you two could check in on the place, since Tolan and Avric are coming with me.
Oh well, that's a good idea. Yeah, so I'll do that. I've always wanted to run a coffee shop. And he sort of looks out the window down the beach. Imagine that. Jonathan, Amal running a... Yeah, no, I would like it. Ricard wouldn't be able to run a coffee shop.
Thanks, Jonathan, for everything.
He smiles. Anytime, Reese.
And there's a half a second where he might move to hug Jonathan, and he just gives a quick smile and starts to head out the door.
And you feel this awkward thing of, like as he moves over and as you look like you're about to hug, he sort of pulls you into this hug anyway, and you can feel like a hefty slap on your back. And he's like, and you promise you'll write?
Yes.
Good, I look forward to them. Travel safe, Reese.
As best I can.
And he's like, and you, as he sort of, again, sort of gives a scratch to Astrid on the top of the head.
And he looks down at Astrid. Should we go make sure Tolan's not still stuck wherever he is?
And there's that, there's sort of like that exhale from the, like from her nostrils as it sort of goes out. And she sort of pads over towards the door, and Jonathan goes and opens it for you.
It was nice to get to know you.
Be safe, my friend. And this isn't the end.
hope to see you again soon.
Oh, me too. I'll even put up with Valadrians to come say hi if I have to. Rickard won't. I'm afraid he can't deal with them, but I will.
Well, I'll do my best to let you know where we are if we need you.
He smiles and gives a nod.
And I think he'll just leave at this point. He's like, Reese is just like, we need to go. We're done now.
And you step out, and there's a moment of, you can tell Jonathan doesn't close the door until you're almost out of sight as he sort of looks down this pathway. And then when you hear the door click, you head towards the airship. And Florence, you're just arriving at the airship. You can see Paula and Matthias slowly, sort of like the back of them, disappear on board. And you can see Tuva just at the side. She is standing very upright. And you see Jin kneeling down. Not a stern look on her face, it looks stressed. She's like putting layers on and putting it. You can see that she's now in this heavy coat with like a fuzzy hood. She's like wrapped in all of these layers. You can see her in these boots. Her little red sort of like hoodie is still tucked in. Her red harem pants, you can tell there looks to be like a thicker pair on, even though they're the same. They've been stuffed into this pair of boots that look far too big. You can probably, it's the sort of thing where your mum goes, you'll grow into them. And she's got a huge belt round her waist, which looks to have things sort of hanging off it. Brenna is clung to her back. This red panda sort of like locking herself around Tuva. And she has this almost sack, like drawstring bag at the side, which she's holding. And the rucksack is on her front, as it always has been. And she's just smiling and nodding at her mum. And Jin is like holding her face, talking to her. And there's a moment where you see them both hug very, very tightly. And you actually see Tuva hug back. And I think there's a moment of understanding there. There's a moment of, you can see they're actually very close, as much as they probably love to annoy each other. And can you roll me an intellect, please?
I can do that.
Okay. You can't really pick up many details, but you get the sense of someone else is there. Maybe it's the stone that has made you more sensitive to it, because you don't feel a want from this person, but it's definitely someone from the other side. And you can sort of get the outline of maybe a man sort of resting his, smoothing Tuva's hair, even though she doesn't feel it. And there's a smile. And you can see Jin withdraw, but it's almost like there are two hands on her shoulders pulling her up and away. And you can see him smile as Tuva and Jin withdraw. They high-five each other. And the Sylvus sort of sits there chewing beside Jin. And Jin takes hold of its reins and starts to walk away as Tuva waves. And she's not facing you, but you can definitely see these sleeves sort of wipe over her face. And this almost shadow of a man stands next to her. Bends down and kisses her on the forehead and follows Jin. And disappears.
I think Florence watches this kind of novella unfold before her, getting just close enough to pick on the few details she can, but staying far enough away that people are able to kind of like be the main characters in their own little goodbyes as she sees these people who have made their lives here begin to figure out how to say goodbye, at least for a little while. And I think Florence looks back at the city and she realizes there's like this hollowness in her chest as she realizes that she has friends and she has people she cares about in the city, but she doesn't have anyone who she's gonna have that kind of goodbye with. And she realizes that in this moment as she kind of tightens, I think, her backpack on her shoulders and looks at the on-ramp. Like she turns her attention from the city and
Oh no.
she's looking up that ramp.
No, we lost you for a second. You're back there. And you look at that ramp, and soon you hear a little voice by your side. Her eyes look a little bit red, but she's definitely pretending they aren't. And Tuva looks up at you. You come in.
Oh, hello, little one.
Not that little.
You know, that's true. And Florence realizes that in probably like a year, Tuva will be taller than she is. Yeah, no, I'm coming. Let's go.
And you're not sure if it's out of her trying to help you or she wants it. She holds her hand out.
Come on then.
Yep, let's go. And Florence reaches out and takes Tuva's hand and I think lets Tuva lead her up the ramp.
Tuva starts nattering and is like,
I know Paula and Matthias are already on board, but I haven't seen Reese or Tolan or Averick yet.
I think that they are gonna be just fine finding their own way up here.
and there's a little heavy sigh.
Okay.
You found your way.
Well, my mum did, but yeah.
I bet you helped her a little bit.
She's
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as she leads you up onto this airship, the one thing you do see underneath her many layers is a small denim jacket sort of peek through, which you can tell she hasn't taken off. And you've seen Charlie wear this as she walks up on board. And I think that is where we will take our break for now. So everyone get up, get a drink, stretch, do what you have to do, and we will be back in 5 minutes or so. Bye. Oh, hi. And Florence, you disappear onto the airship. Holler has already disappeared onto the airship. Reese, do you head straight to the airship?
No, I'd have gone back to Bruin Bindings to make
Yeah.
sure Tolan wasn't still standing there.
Tolan, are you still standing there?
I think he would have headed to the ship, but he would not have gotten on because he would wait probably there at the gangplank to assure that Averick has made it on. Probably wouldn't intrude on Averick's hacking or try to go, knowing that Averick was busy. He wouldn't want to be another thing that Averick had to worry about while he was trying to get ready. So I think, but he would not get on that airship until he saw that Averick and Clyde had gotten aboard.
Reese, you can probably see Tolan stood there.
Reese would just walk up and sidle up next to him, and if it's obvious we're waiting, he'll pull out his pipe.
I'm sure Averick will be here. He always, eventually, gets where he needs to get to. He's actually more on schedule than I am these days.
I mean, you made it. That's what counts.
Yes.
And then with one hand on his pipe, he gives Tolan the stack of Tupperware.
Oh, for God's sakes. What are you going to do? Just load me down with with food and cookies.
Everyone wants to give us stuff for the trip, so
Lord.
you can't say no.
Oh, no, I understand what happens when you say no. You'd think that Valadrian didn't have food with as much as they've given us. Look at this stack.
I mean, have you had food in Valadris?
I've had Valadrian cuisine. I have not actually had food in Valadris before. But I did travel over to Norview once, and they had quite a bit of Valadrian cuisine. It is... They like dill. Not a fan.
Then you might be glad that Jonathan gave us all this.
Well, yes. But I'm sure you could order without dill. Or I'll find something. As long as they have tea. Well, and I know Averick. His bag's half full of tea. He's very picky. I found that out on our first expedition. Heaven forbid that I only bring Earl Grey, because that was a mistake.
And almost on key, you hit, put it down. Like, what have you got? Like, as you see Clyde before you hear Averick, but you see Clyde coming around. He looks to have had like a bag put on top of him, like just hanging over his side. And Averick comes around the corner. Again, like there's almost like a camping sort of rucksack. With Clyde with like the satchel on the side of him. As he hurries over, he's not running, but he's like tottering over. He's like, okay, I'm here. Like, I got everything done. Everything's locked up. I got a message from Jonathan about running Bruin Bindings.
Well, that'd be convenient, now wouldn't it?
Yeah, I've just left some information with my neighbor, so hopefully that will get across somehow. But it's good to know it won't just be closed up.
I'm sure they'll do a great job. He sent, well, we have all this. Showing this stack of Tupperware.
And he's looking, he's like, I'm not going to ask.
You did bring tea.
Of course I brought tea. Like, and he looks over to Clyde and you can see this satchel like bulging with these boxes and tins and things like that.
Well, I guess we're off.
I guess we are. Okay, and he sort of like takes a big deep breath and starts walking up the gangplank.
think Tolan takes one last look, but then seeing Clyde and Averick heads up behind them.
Reese follows up last, making sure everyone that he's supposed to bring with him gets on the ship.
And there's a moment, Reese, where you stand there and look back at Karnan and you see people filing onto all these airships. Some staying behind. You feel a tug at your sleeve as Astrid sort of tries to pull you in. That, thank you for getting off my notes. Now I can see what's actually happening. And then sort of tug you to go on board.
He'll give her a scratch as they start to move. Airships, huh?
And there's a low sort of rumble in her throat.
Well, you can be sure there's going to be plenty of folderol and ceremony as we take off. They are Valadrian after all.
Ah, Valadrian.
Now you've got it.
And you head on board. And Paula, you are walking with Matthias with all of these bags and things that you're laden with. And Elizabeth sort of walks past you in the corridor and stops. And she's like, "Oh, hello, you're here. I should really take you to your rooms. Gosh, you have a lot of bags." And she sort of like, no, that's fine. I know just where to put you. Hang on a minute. George, and like you see this man in uniform come almost running down the side. He's like, "Could you take these bags, or at least some of them, please?" As she sort of like takes one herself. It's like, "I'm just going to take them down to the rooms." And Florence, you round the corner with Tuva, seeing this sort of situation happen. As Tuva's like, "There they are, look!" And Paula, you can hear Tuva behind you.
I hear a tuba, and Paula kind of turns around as she's taking these bags off her shoulders and handing them off to what's his name, Greg?
George.
George.
And he's sort of taking them. He's got a big smile on his face. And Tuva runs over to you and gives you a smile. You can see her sort of give a half hug to Matthias, who gives a grin at her. She's like, I didn't know you were coming. And she looks to Matthias, and he just gives a bit of a wink to her. And Tolan, Reese, and Averick, you come round the corner at this time where you see them sort of congregating in this hallway. There are other people walking backwards and forwards with bags being shown to rooms and things like that. But you can see all of them. You see a lot of bags. A lot of bags, more than anything. And Tolan, you probably have a lot of bags as well. I don't know how equal they are to Paula's, but...
No, Tolan ended up leaving all those trunks behind. He just has the one sort of small, this small sort of leather-sided, sort of a little bit bigger than a carry-on size, but like, you know, the old 70s suitcase, dad suitcase. I have
one.
Yeah, very much. That's what he has. But no, all the trunks that he had started to pack, all of the other things he left at the shop. So it's just this sort of one bag, which is, we'll make do. We'll see.
And you round the corner and you see it, and Elizabeth spots you, and it's like, "Oh, we're just taking people to rooms. You may as well come along. I was going to put you all in a corridor together."
That sounds wonderful.
Nice.
Okay, this way. And you can see she picks up some of Paula's bags. George has some of Paula's bags. Paula has some of Paula's bags, and they start walking down the corridor. Do you all follow?
For sure.
Yeah. You walk down this corridor, and like I said, there's people going backwards and forwards, sort of going in rooms themselves, and it's typical Valadrian. There's a lot of polished wooden panels everywhere. There's a lot of these crystals, almost like lamps, hanging on the side of the walls, giving the light. All of the doors are ornately decorated, and whether it's they're all different though. So some of them are flora, some of them are fauna, some of them are mountains, some of the, it seems to be a lot of intricate designs. There's one where she stops in front of one of the doors. It's like, I was thinking all the girls together and all the guys together. Does that sound good? There's a lot of people on this ship.
For sure. After the events, I'm sure there's space at a premium. We will make do.
Fantastic. And she sort of walks over, and again, she's, as much as you can see her arm is in a sling, she still walks very upright. You can see her hair she's maybe not as neat as she was when you first met her, but her red, like fiery red hair is tied up. She's in a white jacket, a white dress, and these white boots as she sort of strolls down this corridor. And this rather large door, which it is decorated in all these cogs, these wooden carved cogs all over it. And she pulls out this brass key, which has 4 sides to it. So it's like a narrow piece of metal with 4 sides. And she puts it in the lock and turns it, and you see the cogs start to move on their own. And you know it's an illusion. You know it's not actually opening the door. They're Valadrians. They like the fancy stuff. And you can see Averick look at you and Reese briefly as this happens.
Tolan totally, it just kind of looks at Averick with just...
And Averick sort of like, you feel like an elbow go into your ribs. It's like, good.
It's totally unnecessary.
Yeah, but still be good. Thank you. And he sort of like, as the door opens, he takes the bag and sort of slides in. And Astrid probably looks at you, Reese, but does follow Averick and Clyde in.
Yeah, Tolan gives this very fake smile, looking as though impressed at the unnecessary complication of a door lock.
And she gives you like it's not a fake smile, she's definitely smiling at you properly, like, I hope you like it. And he also
Reese will just push him into the room.
Yeah, Tolan's like just wanting to just give him just any opening.
Reese is like, all right, let's go.
And you walk into this room, and it's just as elaborate on the inside. There are 4 beds. They're all single beds, and they're sort of just lined up around the room. You can see a wardrobe. There's a wardrobe. Looks to be like a desk. You can see a crystal just sort of hovering above, which like almost like a lamp for you. Everything on the inside is again wooden paneling, carved. Everything is intricate in this room. And Elizabeth sort of smiles. She goes, dinner is in about an hour if you join us up on the top deck, but otherwise I'll leave you to it to freshen up and get ready. I hope everything is comfortable. As you sort of close it and you hear the click of the door, and Averick sort of does that flop down onto the bed and then regrets it as Clyde jumps on top of him.
Do you see this? Do you see the totally unnecessary use of a levitation on this crystal? You could mount it to they've already mounted sconces to the wall. He just goes around, and everything that is just so unnecessarily magically.
It's all unnecessary. You even see devices sort of in the side, in like the bedside tables that you can see they have their own lamps as well. You can also seen a bed like this before in Valadris where it self-makes itself afterwards.
Tolan is just so... Have patience. Patience. This is all about patience. Differently. It's not as Though they seasoned tree and well of magic explode.
And you just hear, breathe, Tolan. As Averick looks back, he's not looking at you, but he's lying down on this bed. He's like, and then he sits bolt upright and goes, oh my god, we don't have to dress for dinner, do we?
Wait, what?
Is that a thing they do?
Is that why she told us when it was and that we might want to freshen up? Oh,
I don't have anything for...
Well...
I mean,
You've
don't get me
seen
wrong.
me for a week. I've worn this is everything. You'll be fine, I'm sure.
I mean, I can put a jumper on. I've got a jumper.
I'm sure there'll be... I'm sure a jumper is going to make all the difference.
It will make a difference. It's a good jumper. And he sort of starts digging through one of his bags.
Well, I'm sure they're going to make us feel just perfectly wonderful no matter what we wear. However, we will be completely out of place. But, you know what? I really don't care.
Oh, this is going to be awkward. And he sort of like dips into what looks
I'm
like
sure
the bathroom
Paula-
off the side.
I'm sure Paula will be able to dress for all of us.
And he's like, huh, yeah.
Did you see how many bags she had?
Yeah. I mean, I don't really. And he sort of starts to talk and then the door opens and he's like, hello, I'm apparently in with all of you. And Matthias sort of pokes his head around the door as you see this flop of like blue hair. And he's like, are we room buddies?
Tolan smiles and then immediately starts looking to see if someone, a certain someone, if his brother might be following in behind him. It seems so. There's only 4 beds. Are you by yourself?
He's like, yes, of course I'm by myself. And he sort of walks in and closes the door. And if anything, you see he starts taking his coat off and you see that jumper. And he sort of drops it down. He drops his coat down on one of the other beds. He's like, so we're all like room buddies for the trip, I guess.
There's the answer to the question. No one will notice us.
And he just smiles, doesn't even clock it. He's like, apparently we're eating up on deck, on the high deck. I don't really know what it is, but it looks pretty good.
I'm sure it will be full of wonderful, unnecessary inventions and magic.
I know, I can't wait. And he goes and sits on the end of the bed and sort of
Oh, have you seen this?
On.
And he points out the floating lamp.
He's like, oh my gosh. And he moves over and he's like fascinated by it, turning it on and off. It's like one of those tap lamps. And he starts tapping it to see it at the different light levels. So, I was thinking of just going in this.
I think we're all about in the same situation. I'm sure with the number of people who are affected by the events that happened, there's not going to be a enforced dress code or anything.
Oh, I don't think so. I think it'll be all good. Anyway, I did promise my mother I would wear this jumper for at least a day.
You are a good son.
I tried to. I tried to be. And he starts to unpack his bag. And Florence and Paula, you're walking along. Tuva's sort of like hurrying behind you, like as fast as her little legs will go, as Elizabeth has a very firm stride to the room next door. And she pulls out a very similar key, just different type of shapes. As you arrive at this this door, which has an almost spiral theme on it, with all these different animals all around the outside. And this will be your room. And again, key in, clicks, and you see all of these animals start to rotate as if they're running in a perfect circle. She even waits for a moment, like looking at it herself, even though you know the door is open, before pushing the door handle down and opening.
The woodwork is just beautiful.
Thank you. I do rather like it. This one, I actually came up with the idea myself.
Oh, something of a designer?
I just like nice things.
Don't we all? And Paula kind of, dusts herself off a little.
Yeah, Tuva sort of pushes past both of you between your legs and goes in. and immediately starts going over and testing the beds by jumping on which one she wants. So, I will leave you to it. We have dinner in about an hour, 45 minutes, something like that, up on the main deck. Yes, with the sky sail. So please feel free to come up.
Quick question. Is there like a dress code for dinner? Because you see, I have my work clothes, but I'm not one, I don't go to a lot of fancy events or anything.
Oh, no, there is no, we have a lot of people on this evening. We have 3 levels of the top deck, so it's more sort of everyone turn up, grab something to eat.
Okay, that's a weight off my shoulders.
And she sort of smiles and closes the door behind you. I'll see you then.
Florence, look at this place.
It's definitely made by Valadrians. I think you're gonna love Valadris when we get there.
And you see these ornate headboards, these beds that have sort of, again, cogs and flowers and things like that sort of carved into them. You see these sort of crystals hovering as lamps at the sides of your beds. Tuva is sort of shrugging off the many layers that her mum put on her. You can see her opening the top of this rucksack and emptying everything out, and out falls this dragon as well that sort of flumps on the bed, sort of looks around for a moment. And this is probably Florence, is this the first time you've seen it in full?
Yep.
Yeah. This sort of blackish gray dragon, which seems to, as it moves, all its scales sort of change color briefly, like oil, as it moves. Cranes its neck up, this very small neck. You can see it trying to shrug its wings out, stretches them a little bit, settles down. As it sort of, you see these long talons, sort of hear it click as it walks across the wooden headboard, flumps onto one of the pillows and starts to curl up and sleep.
I was not prepared for this.
What?
So the dragon's gonna be in the same room as the rest of us, huh?
Yeah. It's how it sleeps normally. Normally sleeps right next to my head.
And sort of,
Does it know how to, is it potty trained?
She's like, it's not gonna eat you if that's what you're worried about.
I think Paul is worried about the other end.
It's like, well, yeah, it's fine. Pretty good, actually.
If Jin is trusting you with this thing, because I assume that you told her, as per our agreement,
Uh-huh.
then I guess I can trust you too.
She said it's not her problem anymore.
Okay, that's not the answer I wanted to hear.
It's all right. I've got it completely under control.
look, watch. And she reaches into her pocket and pulls out what looks like some jerky. She said, Ayara! And sort of like the eyes open and she throws the jerky and this dragon sort of jumps up off the pillow, snaps it, lands, chews for a little bit before curling back up.
See, it's fine.
Tuva, are you gonna need help smuggling food off of the top deck? Because I have a pretty big sack we can also use.
I'm all right. I smuggle food most of the time.
You do seem pretty good at it. Okay, but
I
let me
used
know.
to. I used to be a thief until my friend told me I had to stop.
Don't encourage this behavior, Florence.
What behavior?
Sneaking around and stealing things.
He's borrowing without permission.
Florence has no words and just looks back at Paula and shrugs a little bit.
Ugh.
She kind of seems to have it figured out.
It's all right. I'm gonna take her wherever I go, and then she'll always be watched. Look, Mum knitted a real sort of stitched in a massive pocket inside my coat for me, and you can see this pocket that's at the moment dragon size.
For now, I'm going to choose to trust you. But
Why would you trust me? I trust you.
But if this thing starts making a big mess of the room, you best believe I will be informing Liz that we have a smuggled dragon in one of the rooms.
You want to tell everyone there's a dragon on this airship?
And Paula takes like the deepest inhale.
She does kind of have you there.
I can't deal with this right now. And Paula starts, she goes to where her bags have been dropped off, and she starts, much like Tuva when she first came in the room, she starts dumping all her bags, and very quickly, like, the room is turning into the motel room that she just left. Like, each of these bags, like, they're not uniformly packed. They have clothes mixed with snacks, mixed with just like random little memorabilia, and but Paula's like digging through everything, and she pulls out the makeup that she got from Liz and Charlie's earphones, and she's like, all right, I'm tuning out and I'm getting ready for dinner. I need some time to breathe away from that thing. I'm going into the bathroom.
Okay.
And as you close the door, you hear Tuva turn to Florence going,
Do you want to see what else she can do?
it's that you close the door.
You know, I do, and I would love to say hello to your friend.
You can do that. You gotta let us sniff you first.
And Florence will walk up and kind of do the thing the way you greet dogs, where you kind of put your hand out so they can sniff you a bit. And Florence is actually really struck by the color of the dragon, because to her it's almost immediately pulling to mind the image of the oil slick sky and the way that it shifts. And she's trying to kind of actually look really closely at this dragon and kind of decide how much of a connection she thinks there is between those two things.
Okay. If you roll me an intellect or perception or something like that. I don't know if you have perception. I always forget who has perception.
I will do an intellect, and I will spend an advantage on this.
That was lucky. The dragon sets fire to the airship and crashes. There we go.
Good game.
That was a good game, everyone. You look at it and you see as it moves and sort of winds its neck forward. You see this little tongue come out and sort of touch the end of your fingers as it rests its head in your hands very, very gently. The movement of the scales, it's almost exactly the same as this oil slick. You get the sense that there is a connection. You're not sure what or why, but it's almost like looking at it, and it's not always as the dragon moves. It's like the colors shift without the dragon moving.
And I think at the moment, Florence isn't quite sure what to make of that information, but she's going to kind of file the hunch away in the back of her mind.
Okay. It is coming up to that time where dinner is coming round. What is Paula doing in the bathroom? Like, is she just literally escaping and getting herself ready and everything like that?
Yeah, she put on Charlie's headphones and is doing her makeup, looking in the mirror. But as she's looking in the mirror doing her makeup, you know, the bright orange headphones are kind of like hard not to look at, and you know, and she takes a second to just remember Charlie, and there's a little bit of fear in her gut when she thinks about how when Charlie disappeared, that dragon appeared. And there's like a little bit of anger inside of Paula, and she thinks of that nasty creature that made her friend disappear, and kind of grunts to herself as she's putting on her blush.
And you get ready, and there is a thud on the bathroom door as you hear Tuva's like, "We're gonna get going. Are you coming?"
Yep. I'm ready to go.
Okay. And she won't open the door, but when you do, she's like there, looking very happy with herself. She's in her jacket. You can definitely see the bump moving in her jacket as it settles down. She's like,
We're off now.
Yep, I'm right behind you.
okay. And she walks over to the door, literally throws it open and starts walking out.
Florence.
Paula.
You're gonna help me out with Tuva, right?
Yeah, I think, that little girl, she is something else. And that dragon, I honestly, really, I don't think I could have picked a better person to be taking care of it. I'll
Really?
help how I can.
You think
Yeah.
that child is capable of taking care of a wild creature?
It's not that I just think Tuva can do it, but she clearly has a lot of people around her, and Florence gives Paula a look, who care and will help. So don't think Tuva's doing this crazy, ridiculous thing in a vacuum.
Yeah, I guess so. Although I must say, if I was still back in my day where I had my lists on, she would definitely right now be on the don't trust list. But we've moved past that. So I'm taking a leap of faith here. And then you too. Because I am trusting you to help me out.
And you know what? I'm happy to be here, as strange as that sounds. The package that Charlie gave me to deliver to all of y'all, and once again Florence looks to the headphones. There's something else I need to help her with. I don't know what it is. She said something to me about how she has a lot she wants to say but can't. And I don't know what that means, but I'm happy to be here so that I can help her say it when the time's right.
More people with secrets. Just what we need.
Secrets aren't always so bad.
Yeah. You'll be thinking twice about that statement after spending a couple weeks with me.
I think I can handle it. And hey, maybe I'm priming you for some of my own. And Florence winks really hard and is like, okay, gotta go to dinner.
So you can hear down the corridor, come on! This really, waiting voice. And Reese and Tolan, you're in the other room and it is coming up to the time. You can actually hear I always said Tola. Tuva in the corridor going, come on, I'm hungry. You can hear her in the corridor and you feel as if this airship is kicking into life. You feel that rock of it go.
There's the dinner bell.
Yeah, I think Reese would just leave when he heard Tuva out in the hall. he'd go find her.
And you can leave and you can see Tuva, like, arms hanging low as Florence and Paula step out as well. And Matthias quickly follows Reese. And Averick looks to you, Tolan. He's like, ready?
Oh, yes. I plan on taking notes on every single complete and utter waste.
You're going to hate it. You're going to absolutely hate it. As he's got a big smile on his face.
That's the best part.
He grins. He's like, come on, I'm hungry.
I'm a bit peckish myself.
Right. And he sort of heads out into the corridor. And if you will follow, Tuva is effectively leading. You can see George outside as obviously directing her as he's sort of leading the way. He seems to be pointing at things as they go, all of these decorative like items. You walk up a spiral staircase, and
I have a question.
Yes, go for it.
How tall is the like hallway that we're in?
Maybe 8 foot, something like that.
Reese is gonna walk up behind Tuva and put her on his shoulders.
Yeah, you sort of hear, what? Like, as she sort of doesn't see you coming. But as you do, you feel her, like, arms go really uncomfortably, like, under your chin, like, trying to hold on to you. She sort of, like, laughs a little bit as George gets you to follow. You head up this first sort of spiral staircases.
Tolan is, like, pointing things out. It's like, to Averick, have you ever seen such a useless use and application of a Merkel's Magnosphere as that?
And he's like, no, I haven't. And he's sort of walking with you, nodding, and then like every now and then pointing at
Right,
something.
what in the world would they put a hydrometer over there for? I mean, truly, it's not even,
And there's a moment where you start walking up the spiral staircase. You come to this next corridor where all the sides are glass, like windows looking out. It's like almost like a viewing deck. You can see the balconies on the outside, and you suddenly notice all these brass tubes everywhere, sort of running all across the ceiling beneath your feet. And you look along these balconies outside, and these people aren't just powering up this ship. You see a system of pulleys where these people in uniform, as you can feel the ship start to rumble and take off, you hear shouting, almost like a muffled shout through these tubes, where you see almost like these speakers, almost like ear horns, like out at the side, yelling directions. And they are literally physically pulling these pulleys to turn the foils to make the ship steer. As you look out and you see getting higher and higher as Carmen gets smaller, and they're sort of like pulling and they're working in time with each other as you hear directions and things shouting from the side.
For heaven's sakes, they have a Merkel's Magnosphere just right down those stairs. That is the exact thing that you would use a Merkel's Magnosphere for, and they are doing it by hand. And for God's sakes, he almost catches himself where he says, have they never heard of a telephone? And then he just realized what he said. And he's like, son of... and then he gets very quiet.
You hear George at the front sort of like, we love tradition. We think it is a wonderful thing. Look at it. This is very much almost like a cruise airship rather than anything else. We have very well-trained men with a form of pulley system. There is up on one of the higher decks, we have someone controlling 2 of the side engines that sort of, help propel us forward, especially in storms. But otherwise, all the fantastic steering you see from these gentlemen here. As he's sort of talking to Paula and Florence, so you're looking at all these people pulling like ropes and then letting them out. There's people pulling these big fans and steers out, almost like kites, like opening them.
Oh, tradition is lovely. It's a wonderful thing. I'm a big fan of it, especially when you throw away 200 years of advancements in safety systems to have people pulling on ropes and pull.
And he said, "Oh no, absolute safety is definitely the absolutely paramount. As you can see, they're wearing harnesses."
Oh,
and he
lovely.
smiles, genuinely not getting the sarcasm as he sort of keeps walking. And there's a lot of people manning this. You can see all these little foils sort of glowing as they all pull them in different directions. You hear that shouting, that rumbling of the pipes above you, beneath you, sort of as you sort of walk, and you get directed up to the top deck. And it is like an old ship. You can tell they're definitely doing this for a sense of style, as this top deck is all wooden floorboards. And you see Elizabeth up there with oh my gosh, Alice, you've had a weird brain day. What is his name? Axel. Oh my god. Axel and some others. There is a large table up there, and you see Axel with his hands behind his back, and as you walk up, you know it's for show. He nods to someone else at the side who also has a pulley, and you're under this big dome, and he starts winding this pulley as the dome sort of starts to part and reveal this. You can see the honeycombs like energy just slightly overhead, but this fully clear dome at the top of the airship, like a giant skylight. So it feels like you're sat on top of nothing.
Paula has her phone out, like throughout all the hallways, like even like she's taking pictures of the door. She's taking pictures of like the different like rugs and the patterns and the men out the window, and now like she's like literally like just like recording everything and taking way too many photos.
Tolan is looking at the honeycomb and not the actual skylight. The part that has been made to be impressive, he's like, now there, that's impressive. As he sees the honeycomb structure, and all of that has to be aligned. Do you see how it's channeling from one to another so that magic builds upon itself? It's a reinforcing idea that has been made form within the honeycomb. And then they threw a damn skylight in the top of it.
And there's a moment where Averick isn't really fully listening, but he looks overhead, and all of you see these birds fly overhead as you feel everything start to move, the ships start to take off. And there's this soft golden glow of the sunset as it slowly starts to come down, and it almost gives a weird reflection off of this skylight that almost, if you couldn't see the honeycomb very lightly, you wouldn't even say anything was there. And you see these clouds sort of rolling in. Not a storm. It feels very calm in itself. And these almost like V shapes of birds heading south as they fly over top. The sun setting. You can slowly see Karnan beneath you as you feel the ship start to rise up higher and higher. And Elizabeth looks to you. Please, take a seat. All of you, you're welcome at my table.
I think as we take off, Tolan gets quiet and looking down at Karnan, and puts his hand on Clyde. It'll be all right, boy.
And you can feel a nudge in your hand.
We can do this. And then sort of saying it to Clyde, but sort of loud enough that Averick can hear as well.
Averick looks at you, he's like, of course we'll be fine. And starts to take a seat at the table.
Reese would sort of look up at Tuva that he's got on his shoulders. Do you want to go take a look, or do you want to sit down?
I want to look.
And she's sort of like wriggling a little bit to sort of head over to where what looks to be like a viewing point.
Yeah, he'll walk over there and then set her down.
Yeah. She's sort of like pressed up against this this honeycomb, and you can see this bird almost skim past as she sort of jumps. And she's like, oh my gosh, look, you can look down there, look at everyone. And
Yeah, what do you see?
she's like, and there's a moment where she looks down.
I can see where the season tree was. I can see the houses. There's people waving.
And you're not too high up yet. And there's one person she looks to and smiles and starts to wave. And looks to you. And points. And Aggie is waving. As this ship gets higher and higher. And she gets smaller and smaller. And you feel, all of you hear almost like a ka-doof as these huge metal almost levers seem to drop somewhere, and you feel the ship tip slightly, and then it starts to propel itself forward. Somewhere you hear yelling through copper tubes, and you feel suddenly almost like there's like it sounds like a flap of like sails, as you can assume everyone on the right hand side suddenly pulls and it turns, and the ship starts to steer. What are the rest of you doing?
Tolan definitely at least raises a hand to acknowledge Aggie, and it's almost, a wave, and then it's a nod. I think they're, even at the distance, there's probably an eye contact that they both make. And I think he, even this far away, just mouths a thank you.
And you can't really tell fully, but there is definitely a big smile on her face. And you can see, as she gets further and further away, like it's not so much you can see their faces now. You see two other women walk towards her and stand by her side and wave as well. And there's a moment where what distracts you more than anything is the clank of like crockery, as you can see these dishes being put on the table. And Elizabeth is not sat down. She stands by her chair. Would everyone like something to eat? It's been a long day.
Tolan does turn and go over to the table. I think he probably keeps sort of a hand on Clyde and sort of also, sort of ushers Averick to a chair close by where he takes his seat.
I think Paula is kind of, she's so distracted from like the beauty of just like the views of Karnan and the sky above and everything below, and she's put her phone away and she's kind of like whipping her head back and forth looking around, and she's almost getting dizzy from spinning in circles just trying to take everything in. That when they Liz asks everyone to sit down, Paula kind of has to like regain her balance before wobbling over to take her seat at the table.
And Florence, she's drawn to kind of that window so that she can look out over the edge. But as like Karnan starts to get smaller and smaller, she feels her heart and her stomach just like to drop out towards the bottom, and she starts to feel a little bit woozy, and she realizes that, oh, that's right. Oh God, no, please. Oh God. And she like backs away from the window because she has in her time being in Karnan and not doing anything dangerous and really just going to her job, she's forgotten that she's definitely afraid of heights. So she staggers back, but as the ship rises, Biddy starts squeaking happily, and Biddy unclings and soars up and kind of joins the ship in the sky. And Florence, when she hears Liz beckon her towards the table, a moment of curiosity strikes her, and her hand goes to the necklace, and her eyes flash gold, and she looks for Charlie.
You can see no other person on board that isn't of this plane. You get a sense. You can definitely feel something. And there's maybe a voice at the back of your head, and you recognize it as Charlie's. And you hear a soon. And it sort of fades away just as much as it came in.
And Florence, she just nods, and her eyes go back to that orange brown, and it's kind of like that feeling of being like tied at the end of a string, and you feel it pluck just a little bit. And she feels a little bit more centered, a little bit more right with the world as she goes and walks back and takes a seat at the table.
How about Reese? Because Astrid has definitely sort of flopped down, not near the table, but definitely by it.
I think Reese would stand at the window as long as Tuva stands there.
As soon as there's like the smell of food, Tuva moves. You can still technically look at it as well, because the whole sort of top of the ship has become glass, effectively.
Mm-hmm.
And she starts like waddling over to this table and sits herself down at the complete opposite end of Elizabeth, sort of checking her pocket every now and then. But she sits herself down, and soon there is food placed in front of you. It's very pretty. It's very minimal. There are wine glasses filled. You can see Tuva sort of go to reach for one as they sort of pour it for her, and Matthias just like switch it with water as he keeps going. She looks a bit disgruntled at one point, and you are basically given this 3 to 4 course meal. Very small, very delicate, very pretty foods. And there is not a lot of conversation, but Elizabeth and Axel seem to be talking to each other more than anything. I'm not trying to be quiet or anything, they're just discussing things and what they need to do when they get back to Valadria. And she turns to all of you and raises a glass. Thank you for coming. I know it can be difficult to leave somewhere, but thank you for coming to offer the information and to help with whatever has happened here. And she sort of raises her glass and takes a drink.
Paula raises her wine glass, takes a sip.
I have some things to attend to. Please feel free to stay up on deck. This is a private deck just for, well, usually me and Axel and anyone I invite up here. And she sort of smiles. George can get you anything you need. And just press that button over there. And Tolan, your eyes are drawn to this again while it copper like trumpet with like an intercom type thing on it. Otherwise, please take some time to relax and enjoy yourself. Try and enjoy the journey. I know for many of you have never left before. Her eyes sort of go towards Paula briefly, and she gives you a smile. The sun is setting. It promises with good views. And she stands up and walks away, with Axel sort of almost hurriedly right behind her.
Hey, Matthias. And Paula kind of leans across the table to Matthias.
What?
We should go take a look at the sunset.
I'd quite like that. I mean, before it, dips down below the ocean, but let's go and have a look.
Yeah, because it's going to be gone like really quick. Sunsets happen lickety split, so we should probably get there quick.
Okay. And he sort of stands up, almost knocks his glass over, but he definitely sort of steadies himself. And he sort of looks over head, and you two can walk to the side where sunset is. What's everyone else doing?
Tolan turns after being pointed to this button and this horn and these copper pipes. Turns to Averick in a very serious request. He goes, I want you to teach me how to use a phone.
And I feel like you watch him almost choke on the last thing he's eating. He's like, a what?
A phone, one of the fancy ones. One of the ones with the big screens.
You want a phone?
They are using, and he just points at this, copper tubes and a horn on an airship.
I'd text Aggie if I knew she hadn't broken hers. And he looks so happy as he sort of throws his arm up, and he's like, everyone, Tolan wants a phone.
Oh, for God's sakes.
Sort of throws it out there, and he's like, yeah, we'll sort you a phone. And honestly, if you just want them to call and text, they're really easy to. I'll teach you how to use it.
That'd be nice.
Too difficult, I think.
I was gonna say, do I level up?
Yeah, I was gonna say, everyone gain XP. Character development has happened. And he looks at you, and he's just like, we'll get your phone as soon as we can, and I'll show you how to use it, but you have to promise to use it.
I realize the folly of not using the technology that we have. He's speaking too loudly.
Mm-hmm.
Or using technology as it should be.
You can take photos too.
Okay, now that's too far.
Well, no, because it means you can record information.
I think I'll stick with my sketchbook.
Yeah, I think you should. And he sort of moves back and starts taking a fork, and it looks like Matthias has left some of dessert, and Averick is leaning over and putting it on his plate and just sort of digging into it.
I hear they'll bring you as much as you want.
But the portions are small, and I'm not calling George again. And he starts digging in.
Reese is totally calling George.
Yeah.
George, what's the guy got to do to get a frickin' cheeseburger?
There's a moment. Is Reese actually saying that? Or
yes.
Yeah. You're there by the button thing, and George comes up, and there is a burger plate with 2 chips crossed sort of at the side, and a piece of chive delicately balanced on top of this burger, and he puts it down in front of you, gives you a quick bow, and hurries off again.
Before he leaves, I nudge Averick. He's like, you sure you don't want to talk to George?
And he looks at the burger and goes, nah.
Very good.
Reese is just like, of course. But he'll eat it anyway, because I'm sure it's delicious.
You can see, however, that Astrid has definitely been given what looks like a whole piece of like joint of meat or something as she sits there gnawing on it. As you can hear like the crack of like the bone like at the side of her teeth, and she looks very happy. And what about Florence? What is Florence doing? Because Tuva's a mess right now. Like she's covered in, I'm just gonna say she's covered in whatever she's been eating, just around her face.
Anytime Tuva seems to really enjoy something, Florence will only eat half of it, and then she'll like slide the other half towards Tuva in case she wants seconds of
There's
it.
a slow pile up of plates going on.
Because Florence is also expecting for Tuva to be pocketing, like literally pocketing, an amount of the food that she has. So she's just sliding things to Tuva during the meal.
You can see that every time she takes a bite, a bit goes into the pocket, and you can hear, like, only because you're sat so close to her, you can hear something eating in there.
And Florence really needs to make sure that this, like, growing girl and this growing dragon are eating enough in secret. So she's doing that throughout the meal, and when we get to this quiet period, she's just, I think, reveling and caught up in this space that she finds herself. She had kind of promised she wasn't going to leave Karnan, and now she's on an airship, and Biddy is just still flying and circling above, and I think she's just enjoying this moment of change.
And there's a moment that as soon as George leaves and the door closes and it's just all of you up on deck, Tuva looks to you and pulls this dragon out of her pocket and puts it like effectively by the plate so it can eat it.
Tuva, you put the dragon back.
There's
you can't
no one
do
up
that.
here.
But what if someone comes up here?
Oh, she's
know
very good.
almost-
She comes when I call.
I know almost nothing about your situation, but I do know that that is a secret.
And I will say that Reese, Tolan, and Averick can see this like little head of a dragon like gnawing up whatever is on the side of this plate.
She's like, it's fine. How I'm going to teach him to fly soon. Where else better than on an airship?
Does Matthias know?
Yeah, no, Matthias knows.
Okay. What if Liz comes back?
She
Axel
won't
could
come
come
back.
back?
It's fine. Like they had stuff to do. You heard him.
And like she's like she puts this dragon on the table and it doesn't like run off or do anything, it just sits there and licks the plate with its tongue. It's continuously gravy or something.
I am very pro you having this dragon, but this seems like a very poor choice right now.
And she looks down at this dragon.
It's okay. She's nearly done.
Can she go faster? Because Tuva, this doesn't seem super responsible.
Okay.
And she sort of looks a bit like, oh. And if anything, Tolan and Reese, you see Tuva at the end of the table now trying to get like this dragon away from the food to try and stuff it back in her pocket. And Averick is looking down the other end. He's like, what is that? And she looks towards the dragon at the other end of the table. And he's like, is she bringing that with us?
Yup.
So you remember the sphere that you were such good friends with?
And he sort of tenses his brow. Yes.
That's what was inside of it.
And he looks, his eyes go wide. That was the thing sassing me?
Yes.
What is it? What kind of, it's a weird lizard thing.
Sassy dragon.
Wait. Dragons don't exist.
Well, appears they do.
And Tuva just happens to have one in her side pocket.
Well,
aren't they like the fire-breathing huge things of the sky that burn villages or whatever it is?
well, it's just a baby. Give it a chance.
It's like, what the... do we? Like, as he sort of looks at the other end of this table, and you can hear the clatter as like crockery falls on the floor. She's trying to stuff it back in this coat.
I put my hand sort of on Avric's wrist. Charlie sacrificed her life so that could hatch. Whatever its purpose, whatever reason that the stories that we saw carved into the ancient ruins we explored, having dragons, following after early humans, for whatever reason they've returned, and the season trees exploded, and the sky has turned to an oily ink for some reason. That's a part of it, and we're a part of it.
He looks over at the dragon briefly as it's finally see this tail disappear into a pocket. So we have a dragon now.
We have a dragon now.
Can it fly?
Well, it has wings.
And you just see that sort of like fall into like the palm of his hand and rub his temple. He's like, fine. We have a dragon.
The good news is, it's always seemed to be very obedient to your commands if it starts to be trouble, and Tuva doesn't spoil it.
He sort of looks over at this pocket that's now like, looks like it's fighting back. Great. Exactly what I wanted.
Oh, you'll be a great dad to the little
Don't
sassy
start.
thing.
Like, don't start. Otherwise, I'm not getting you a phone. As he sort of starts to like argue, and Reese, you sort of see Astrid sort of rise up a little bit, pause up, and when she actually stands up on her paws, up resting up against the side to look out, she is huge, taller than any man. And she sort of looks out, presses her nose to this honeycomb and sort of wrinkles it as it's almost like a static back. And she's watching.
Goes up and ruffles the side of her.
And she sort of rests her head on like this, almost like handrail. And you look out, and below is Karnan. And you see the network of waterways, the buildings slowly disappearing. You can't see anything of detail, but you start to go past the beach. Gold Crest Coast. Just where Jonathan and Rickard live. And you see the shoreline and these waves as they sort of hit the beach. As you leave the Gold Crest Coast Cove, past the fork, the three islands, just off the shore. And Paula, you have walked over to... I've frozen, haven't I? Am I frozen?
No,
You're good.
No.
Okay, everything's frozen my end, so I'm going to keep talking. Paula, you and Matthias sort of walk towards the other side of the ship and look out, and this sun is setting. It's starting to get darker and darker, and you can see the sun setting over the horizon of the ocean. And all around you are these other airships that you can see have taken flight. Some of them are different colors. Some of them don't seem to be maybe as ornate as the one you were on.
Now you've frozen.
I have frozen.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything looks okay on my end.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, now she's frozen to me.
Yeah. Oh, it's funny because on stream she's frozen with a different face than in my Zoom.
Okay.
Mm.
No worries. Well, folks,
Mhm.
it's been a lovely dinner.
Wow, yes, this airship is beautiful.
It's just
I'm
fully
loving
frozen. I can't move
everyone's-
anything.
I'm loving everyone's different reactions to the airship.
Yeah, everyone has like their own vibe with it. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, no, Toland is Toland.
It's so good. It's like exasperated to utter excitement
Yeah,
and everything in between.
that's what happens when you have an interesting cast of kooky characters from Karnan.
Kooky characters from Karnan. Love that alliteration.
You know, I just want to get to Valadria already. I mean, I'm impatient.
Wait, I think Scrat's trying to talk.
Hang on.
I think he's talking to Alice.
Oh,
You can hear us.
We're
yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
My whole computer's still working.
Yeah. Okay. Give me 2 seconds. I'm gonna go and get another camera in.
Mm-hmm.
Literally count to 20, then choke it to death. And
In the
Again,
meantime,
people
why
can hear you.
don't why
Y'all
don't
are-
you all check out the website curated by Julie, who plays Charlie, who we've talked a lot about tonight.
Yes. And also, if you haven't done so, Alice has a Patreon.
It's super good.
It
White
is
Rabbit Pit.
amazing. Be sure to check that out. But anyway, so thank you all for coming and tuning in, and be sure to check out our sponsors as well, the Deck of Mini
Right. And Hero
And-
Forge.
and Hero Forge, which has their new Kickstarter, which is like breaking all kinds of records and is amazing thing. So if you're like me and you can't paint a mini to save your life,
Or you don't have time.
or you don't have time, it is a great way to make a customized, now painted, colored mini of your characters that you create. So for all of those crazy people who make a bazillion characters, like, I just want to play a XYZ, you can go in there and you can do it. You can change their build, you can change their height. It is very addictive, a lot of fun to play with. It makes a lovely gift.
The
Oh,
future is now. If you like making like new characters and MMOs, or like if you like spend a lot of time in The Sims doing character customization,
Yes.
this is for you.
For sure.
It's super good.
And if we're talking about sponsors, we can't forget Dark Matter.
Oh,
Mage Hand Press.
absolutely. Mage Hand Press, Dark Matter is amazing. They have their new pirate game. They have taverns and
Tankards.
tankards, which is
It's super
their
good.
great resource for any DM that when you show up and just want to have a little bit of a break from whatever your main campaign might be, for a nice little fun, often alcohol themed side quests, or the interesting things, the fun and exciting things that our everyday tavern keepers bump into when they have adventures traipsing through their doors on regular intervals. It is lots of fun. And yes, Oath of Revelry Paladin is awesome. It's basically frat boy Paladin, and it is amazing.
You know, we still have yet to explore any like taverns in Dunera. Like we have to go to like a good old fashioned bar at some point and
It's like-
experience a bar in Dunera.
Hey, we have an
Hey,
Alice.
Welcome
Yeah.
back.
Am I actually back?
Yes, you are.
There we go. Hi, everyone. I don't know what my computer's doing. It's making me slightly nervous. But yes, sorry. Let's jump back into it. Yeah, Paula, you've walked over to the side with Matthias, and there's this huge sort of sunset happening over the side of the water. And you can see in the air, as it starts to go very golden, very blue, all these other airships taking off and leaving Karnan. It happens. And he walks over to the side and he's like, I can't believe we're finally leaving. Look at them all. Look at all of these airships.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. It's like a flock of birds, but instead of birds, they're whales of
like looking out at the scenery, and you can see as you pass the ocean below. You're finally leaving.
You know, it's about time.
How do you feel?
Honestly, kind of stressed out.
Why are you stressed out with a view like this?
Well, Tuva has that pesky dragon, and it's staying in the room, and it's just been getting on my nerves.
She does have a dragon, but you know, I think it's going to work out okay. Things happen for a reason.
Yeah. It just feels like, you know, I was going to take a vacation from work, and now it almost feels like I'm signing up for a new job.
I mean, you kind of are, but you're going to a new place. We're going to see new things. And I'm excited.
Yeah. I'm excited too. And I know I told you before, but I'm really relieved that you're coming because, you know, I mean, although I love the thought of exploring and trying all these new things, you know, it's kind of scary to do that alone.
He smiles. Well, you're not alone.
Well, I mean, I'm obviously not alone. And she turns back at everyone else, but you know, I feel like you get me, you know, a little bit more than in a different way than, I mean, I don't know if you feel like that too, but I just feel like you kind of get me.
And he smiles. Do you want to go look at the other side of the ship?
No, we could stay on this side for a little while.
And he holds out his hand. There's a really good view from that side. And there's no one else there.
Yeah, I guess we could take a look at the other side of the ship. And she takes Matthias's hand.
And he flushes completely red, but there is the biggest grin on his face. And you can see Sophia dive underneath that really ugly jumper. And he gives you a grin and starts sort of pulling you to the other side of the ship, which looks over the 3 islands, the fork. And he looks back at the rest of the group and then looks back at you. You really are bad at goodbyes, aren't you? You just take people with you.
Yeah, that's I take everything everywhere I go. I mean, I don't know if you noticed with all the bags, I've got a lot of baggage.
You did have a lot of bags. And he sort of smiles. And he gives you a grin and stands a bit closer and just squeezes your hand and looks back out over the airships. And I think that is where we will leave it this week. because my computer's making another funny noise and I don't want to crash out. So yes, sorry about the crash, everyone. I don't know what my laptop's doing. I'm gonna have to figure that out. Otherwise, thank you. Please check out the links that are coming up in chat now. And if we're starting sorting games for viewer games next season, so please drop Scrat a DM. There is a list, and we would love to have everyone come and play. Also, Discord, we have a channel purely for Doors of Dunera, and I would love to hear what you think of it and of all these lovely people here that do such a good job telling this story. Also, please check out YouTube if you haven't. If you've missed out on anything or fancy rewatching the seasons or anything. Also a huge thank you to our wonderful sponsors in the form of Mageham Press, which you would have seen earlier for Mageham Mondays, and also Hero Forge, which, as I said, their Kickstarter is crazy right now. It's amazing. I know they're over the million mark. I haven't checked it, but it's insane, but it's amazing. So please go check those out. Also, the wonderful Deck of Many, which is the deck of many things, which I now use in all of my games to help you affect the story. And also Humblewood. And it's a very wholesome book. It's wonderful. There are rumors that there might be coming next season in a campaign. And also, I just want to say the piece of music you are hearing now, thank you very much to Jay, who made this piece of music, as it's always so freaking amazing.
I love it.
It's so freaking amazing. So please go check out that. Otherwise, keep evoking emotions, and I'll see you later. Bye.
Oh, hi everyone. Unfortunately, it does look like the Streamlabs has fully crashed. So we are going to take a break between streams. We're going to try refreshing OBS. If that doesn't fix it, then we're going to restart our PC. In the meantime, because the credits haven't worked, please check out these wonderful people in this show. We've got Tall Squall there. We've also got Alice, who is absolutely wonderful. Make sure you check out Jay Gons Gold, a wonderful music producer and occasional streamer. Sarah, who helps us out at the academy. She is the head teacher's assistant and helping us with a lot of incentives at the moment. And not to forget the wonderful Mal Hideo. This story has been brought to you by Alice. It's a homebrew creation of her own. Please also check out her Patreon. She is a fantastic photographer who is quite often available for hire. We are going to take a break here. We're going to stop stream, fix all our issues, and we'll be back in half an hour with Tact and Diplomacy. Thank you very much for tuning in.